Hi, my name is Brenda Hernandez and we'll continue with Module 7, Video Post 2. Communication. Communication is the one skills managers need to possess to be truly successful in the organization in which they find themselves in. Through communication, people exchange and share information with one another and influence one another's attitude, behavior, and understandings. Communication allows one to establish and maintain interpersonal relationships, listen to others, and gain information. In order to be a successful manager, communication is key with resolving conflict, negotiating successfully, and leading their employees. Communication is defined as an interpersonal process of sending and receiving symbols with messages attached to them. This includes a sender, the person who is responsible for encoding an intended message into merging into meaningful symbols, both verbal and nonverbal. The message is then sent through a communication channel to a receiver who then decodes and interprets its meaning. This interpretation may or may not be a match to what the sender originally intended. Feedback, when presented, reverses the process and conveys the receiver's response back to the sender. To sum it all up, communication involves a series of questions such as who, the sender, says what, the message, in what way, the channel, to whom, the receiver, with what result, interpreting the meaning. Effective communication occurs when the interdependent message of the sender and the interpreter, meaning of the receiver, are one and the same. Efficient communication occurs at a minimum cost in terms of resources used, such as the amount of time involved. Efficient communication is not always effective. So without opportunities to ask questions and clarify the message, erroneous interpretations are possible. When communicating with others, we can find ourselves hitting communication barriers, and communication is a two-way process that requires efforts and skills on both the sender and the receiver's behalf. And noise is anything that interferes with the effectiveness of the communication process. Common sources of noise include poor choices of channels, poor written or oral expressions, failure to recognize nonverbal signals, physical distractions, and status effects. Now we're going to be discussing a little bit of noise and going a little bit deeper regarding this noise that we experience every day in communication. So in communication studies and information theory, noise refers to anything that interferes with the communication process between the speaker and the audience, or the receiver, as we've been calling it. And noise can be external, like a physical sound of music in the background, your phone going off, ringing, either text messages, so forth, or internal, which is a mental disturbance. This happens a lot, more often than not, and it can disturb the communication process at any point in time. So noise can at any time disrupt this process and break down the process when a receiver is involved. So as a result, a receiver cannot function as it should be. Thus, noise can cause the receiver to be unable to understand the message, and noise reduces the efficiency of communication systems. The two aspects or examples of noises that I have experienced in communication are both poor written communication and physical distraction to communication. The first one, poor written communication. When I was running payroll for a client of mine, I read an email incorrectly and I switched the days and the hours of the employees. This created a discrepancy in billing and in the time sheets. And when I was confronted with the problem, I had to go back and do an internal audit regarding this matter. And I noticed, that's when I noticed my mistake and I read the email incorrectly. Something that I need to do to avoid this problem, and that I continuously do now, is that I send back an email basically restating what I believe the email is saying and just having him confirm or clarify with more details. The next one is a physical distraction. Another client of mine works at a shoe repair, and he constantly has machines running in the background, and it's very noisy. When I called him to clarify an expense that he had turned in, it was very difficult for me to hear him and understand what he was telling me because of the noise in the background. So what I did is I decided to make an appointment and just go see him face to face. That way there wasn't a communication barrier there, and I avoided all the noisy sounds in the back, and we took our time so that we could discuss what the expenses were clearly.